So, tonight, however, we're very excited about the program. We're happy to have Carol Lindsay, Nita Bodine, and Jeff Anderson, officers of the Civic Center Foundation, this is the organization, as you know, that manages the club. They're here to talk to us about that beloved Washburn community fixture since, I thought it was 2018, I guess it was 2019 when it was completed. That club, our club. Carol?
So, thank you all for coming tonight, and I really am appreciative of the large crowd. We're going to do a pretty much of an informal presentation. We're going to talk about some of the stories. We're going to bring up things. Ken forgot his glasses. And if you see something that I have a date wrong or a story wrong, we want people's input. One of the things, we know there's been different events happening at the club. And we're going to ask people, did you do this? And Jane keeps telling me she won't get up and talk, so I'm going to box her into a corner. But so part of the presentation tonight is capturing more club history. And as we can all say, this first 100 years has gone fast. And as Ken pointed out, the building was started in, I turned my page, but I didn't click the button. So the Dupont Club was started under construction in 1918, and it was dedicated January 14th, 1919. You can see it's a massive wooden structure. So the other day, I climbed up in the attic with Felix Kalinowski and tried to get some pictures of these gorgeous trusses. One of the things that we'd like to do in the future is take that drop ceiling down and reveal those majestic trusses. I think it'll be absolutely gorgeous. This is, Joe Mawson sent me a bunch of information, and this is one of his slides, and I'm just going to read it. The concrete work on the big new YMCA, the Dupont Club, was completed in the past week. The Dupont Company intends to have a large crew of carpenters and men to build the frame as quickly as possible. The basement of the building is concrete. Bayfield County brownstone is being used from the ground floor to the main floor. The main part of the building will be finished in stucco. DuPont's intent is to make it one of the finest buildings in northern Wisconsin. The basement floor will house bowling alleys, a pool and billiard hall, and the main floor will have a library, reading rooms, and a huge gymnasium. The building is for the people of the city and the workmen at DuPont plant. I have in Lars Larson's book, I found some different Washburn Time articles, and every once in a while I'm just going to read some of those. So it says in April 1918, the building they had been using as a meeting place and a gymnasium was destroyed by fire. And it was called the Sheridan Building. So DuPont decided to erect a new building, and it was going to be managed by the Young Men's Christian Association, thus the YMCA that you see on the cornerstone. The time enthused that every portion of the building is being erected with a view to beauty and convenience, and nothing will be left undone to make it one of the finest buildings of its kind in northern Wisconsin. And as I said before, it was dedicated January 14, 1919. It was attended by an overflowing crowd. The enthusiasm, the institution means more to the city than any other like institution Washburn has ever seen. A report in the June 1919 Washburn Times listed numerous activities, including social functions, paid and educational programs, bowling, pool, billiards, gymnasium classes, general athletic programs, and baths. And baths, so. And then this is just another beautiful picture of it done with that beautiful brownstone porch. And of course, I think on everyone's wish list is to put that back on. So now I kind of broke this up into like 10-year segments. First one is 1920 to 1929. So Dupont dropped financial support for the YMCA in 1921, just 2 years after it was a YMCA. I have an article that talks about that a little bit. So that's when it became the Dupont Club, and Dupont funded it as their own club instead of via the YMCA. In 1929, the first Women's Bowling League was formed, and also in 1929, talkies, the first talking movies were shown. So this is a little bit about why it switched from a YMCA. With the end of the war and the large reduction in the workforce at Barksdale plant, the future of the YMCA was in doubt. The DuPont company withdrew its financial support, and the secretary brought in from Barksdale when the Y there closed soon resigned. A drive undertaken to secure funds to continue the sport of the Y was unsuccessful, and a second secretary resigned. With the support of the company, a DuPont club was then organized for the employees and their families, with associate memberships for non-employees. While access to the club was supposed to be restricted to member families, the facilities were frequently used by other organizations for meetings and other events, while many people frequented the club as guests of members. In fact, the DuPont Club came to serve Washburn's community center, open to members and non-members, and events and activities held there were an important part of Washburn's social and entertainment scene for many, many years. Each year, the club sponsored a huge Christmas party and a grand ball on New Year's Eve. The gymnasium was also the gym that was used by the high school because it had bleachers. Just a little bit. In 1929, the technology that at last made the motion picture, at least in the minds of some, a complete dramatic medium arrived in Washburn, talkies. In mid-March, an article in the Times reported that talking and singing pictures, the latest and most notable product of our inventive 20th century civilization, will make their initial appearance in Washburn at the DuPont Club. Next segment is 1930 to 1942. And this was, whoops, I'm out of order. This is just an article. It seemed like there was a lot of articles and something happened at the DuPont Club. Somebody wrote about it. And I think this one says nearly 1,000 children and a large number of adults gathered at the DuPont Club on Christmas night. I have that. I'm going to find it and read more of it. Oh, we're moving on because I can't find it. The DuPont Club all lit up for New Year's Eve. And this is another, I don't know where Joe Mawson found this, but this was, I guess, just an ad they would have in the paper about the Christmas season, the holiday season at the DuPont Club, Washburn, Wisconsin. Here's one of the articles on the New Year's Eve. Preparations for the annual DuPont Club New Year's Eve Ball, which for years past has been an outstanding social event of the winter season, are again going forward under the supervision of C.C. Whedon, club manager, and A.P. Johnson, chairman of the club social committee. As in the past, every effort is being put forth to make the New Year's Eve Ball the most colorful and exciting dance festival of the year, and there is every reason to believe that this year's event will live up to the tradition established by a series of highly successful ring out the old and ring in the new celebrations. Due to the great demand for dance orchestras on the evening of December 31st, the social committee was unable to secure the services of an established orchestra, but first-rate impromptu musicians composed of Ashland and Washburn musicians and collegians that were home for the holidays will occupy the orchestra stand and dispense jazz as hot and heady as any this side of the Twin Cities or Chicago. And I have no doubt that there was a Holman involved in that band. That's just another article that Joe sent me on. This is about the preparations for New Year's. So the bowling alley. I might be getting a little out of sequence, but we'll figure it out. Originally, there was 2 bowling alleys, and then 2 more were added in 1942. And in my interview I did with Jack Peterson, he told me that Baldy Sem in the 50s approved buying semi-automatic pin setters. So, how many people, raise your hand, set pins at the club? Here's a little clip from the Washburn Times, April 11th, 1946. The bowling alleys do not have automated pin setters, and this writer was a long-time pin boy, manually setting pins, while trying to avoid flying pins and the fast-moving balls rolled by the men. So, if you're the speaker, you can throw in a slide of your dad. So the back row says Bomey, Plyer, Stouffer, Lindsay, it looks like Hokinson, and Hermanson, and Peterson. And that is Tommy Peterson, uncle to John Peterson, our musician, and brother to Jack Peterson. Yeah, it says it's white, I think Means, Norman, and Weir.
Who was the Lindsay?
My dad.
Oh, was that?
Yep. So, moving on, high school burns in 1947, and the classes moved to the club. There's another article that Joe found, and said, city, and this is pretty remarkable how fast the city responded to have a place for the students to go to school. City and school officials met that evening to deal with what had been a lingering crisis suddenly transformed into an urgent one. A committee was appointed that met the next day with the manager of the Dupont plant to arrange for use of the Dupont Club as a temporary school. New textbooks were ordered, which arrived on Friday, and by the hard work by administrators, teachers, and the school opened the following Monday. It was only closed, they only had missed 5 days. That's pretty amazing, I think. It opened in 5 days. Let's see a show of hands on how many people went to school at the Dupont Club. Yay! Do you have any stories to share?
No. I can tell you some Lulus.
Do you want to tell us one?
No.
Oh, okay. Not sure what happened to that slide, but it's. I think it was supposed to have 2 pictures of the fire. And here's just a slide that, again, Joe Mawson came up with, showing the prom and the banquet at the club. And we have a Facebook page for the old Dupont Club, or the Washburn Club, it has a few names. And one of the suggestions was to let the high school have a prom there again. I think that would be pretty cool. And then in 1950, so the stucco lasted 20, 30 years, and then they replaced it with clapboard.
Yeah.
Still has the brownstone porch, though. (1950 to 1961). In 1950, the new high school was done, and the classes moved back to the new school. In 1953 to 59, Jack Peterson was the recreation director. And
Stand up or something.
no, I got a little,
Later?
no, right now.
Okay.
Just, I need a drink. It's just water. So, I sat down with Jack a couple weeks ago, and his son John was there, and he had written down some talking points of some of the things that happened there, and that's when he told me he was the recreation director for Dupont from 1953 to 1959, and he was in charge of all activities at the club and at Jackie's Field. So for those that you don't know this is Jack is the namesake of Jackie's Field.
Yeah.
Some of the activities that went on there were he coached basketball teams, baseball teams, they had square dancing, bowling leagues, 2 men's, 1 women's. Youth bowling was free on Saturday. The high school gym used the gym until the new gym was built in 53-54 school year. Bowling, I mentioned this, but bowling went from manual pin setting to semi-automatic when the plant manager, Baldy Sem, they didn't have enough money for fully automated, but they had enough money to get them semi-automated. Jack said they usually paid the kids 10 cents per game to set pins. John Peterson, son of Jack Peterson, who provided our music, did this as a 10-year-old.
Oh, wow.
He still has that first dime. John and I have been friends our whole lives too, so I can give him a little bit of a hard time. The older kids would do 2 lanes, the younger kids 1 lane. Jack he had the All-American Redheads, and they played against the Dupont team. He had the Harlem Satellites play against the Dupont team. He had donkey basketball games. There was a skating rink between Olson's and the club, and people would sit on the bowling alley to watch the skating. They had a heavy bag and a speed bag for boxing, a pommel horse for gymnastics. There was 2 pool tables and 1 billiard table. The second floor housed meetings and gatherings, and in the early 60s, the USA ski jumpers bunked at the club. One thing he told me, and I'm going to ask people in the crowd if they were actually part of this, Dupont recruited local people to iron or seal bags for explosives, and they did it in the club. So, how many people here sealed bags? There's one. Whoa! Wow! Who wants to tell how you did it? Was it sheets of plastic? Were they sheets and you folded it over and ironed them?
Like an iron?
On a mandrel,
Yeah.
an aluminum mandrel, and you roll it, then you take a,
People want to hear this now, so.
Hot iron. Like a mango ironing board?
yes, it was,
Talk right into the.
oh, okay, all right. It was an aluminum mandrel, and it was flat pieces of mylar, I would assume, and you'd roll it, and then you'd seal it, and when you sealed the edge, then you'd pull it up and you'd fold the end over and seal that in, and then that was it.
Was it like an iron?
Yeah, with an iron, electric iron.
Wow. And it made a bag.
Yep. And I think there was 500 sheets in a package or something like that. Wow.
Jane? Now's your chance to add to that.
He said it all. We just went down in the
I told Jane I was going to pick on her.
We just went down in that basement.
We did it at our house.
Yeah, you did it.
Okay, Jack, you want to come up and say a couple words?
We were down in that first floor in the bar.
The plant that my dad had built.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, you used to, but I know I didn't.
I got out of the Army in 1951. I went to work at the plant. As I was working one day, plant manager Baldy Sam came to me and said, the present manager of the Dupont Club has resigned. He wants to go back to Milwaukee. Would you like to become manager of the club? I said, you bet I would. One of my first duties was after starting, Mr. Sam came to me and said, automatic pin setters have just been invented. Would you check on getting that installed at the plant? I called two companies, the Brunswick company, the AMF company. They sent representatives to the club, and I gave them a tour of the place. And after they looked over the situation, they said, no. You haven't got enough room. The bowling alleys would have to be moved back towards the alley and the location there, and it just would not be feasible. And you only have 3 leagues going Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. I think that's it. I have here a gift to the organization that is holding this, and I'd like to present it to you. It's a start of some funds for, it's in honor of my wife.
Thank you very much,
I
Jack.
always forget my stick.
We appreciate your contribution, and especially in Arlene's name. Thank you very much. So I don't know if I can back up, but, so we talked about the new school being finished, and then in '61, Dupont donates the club to the city of Washburn. But the next picture, it says, which one is the jackass? That's Jack and a donkey. And he gave me that photo. So. I can remember going and watching my dad ride a donkey, and the donkeys had rubber boots on, so they didn't wreck the floor. Of course, I think of that.
One night.
So the next era, is the city owned, and I'm not sure when the city didn't own it. I assumed it's around 2009. But this is from the Washburn Times. In September 1961, the Dupont Company gave the building and the land to the city, a dubious gift at best. So when I was trying to find stuff for this presentation, it's like, not every time I'd read an article, but the place has struggled to have enough money to operate for most of its existence, it seems like. We're going to change that. So, a dubious gift at best. Various plans to find a use for the building which would not burden the city with expenses were tried, but none were successful. In October 1967, the council decided to sell the building. The Times noting that the city fathers would lend an attentive ear to anyone who comes forward with a plan or proposal that would be mutually profitable and turn a white elephant back into a community asset. But apparently, the council listened in vain. The building was eventually converted into a city-sponsored senior and youth drop-in center. And then the city agrees to accept the Dupont Club. That's back in 1961. But anyway, that's how it became owned by the city. This Kurt Gaber put on our Facebook page, and I just decided to use it. He painted that sign, he told me. So apparently in the 80s, the club had a teen scene. So DuPont donates the club to the city of Washburn in 1961. The city operates it from 61 to 2009. 2009, the city council votes to demolish the club. And again, they might be 2008, I'm not 100% sure, And in 2009, citizens collected 800 signatures to save the club. And I asked someone from that group, if someone would volunteer and just talk. Ken, I guess everyone's pointing at you. Just a little bit about how they went about gathering 800 signatures. And when you think about it, in a town of 2,000 and 800 adults signed, that's a big chunk.
I will give my 10 minutes. We are fortunate to have a number of really good people in both the Heritage Association and the club. We have about, and I don't know the exact amount of people, but we went door to door, door to door, and we're very seldom turned away from the point that people didn't want the thing there. There were some that said, let's tear it down, let's get something new and splash it down on the lakefront. Well, the question always got to be, if we can't afford this, how are we going to afford that in a proper way? But we were very fortunate to have the signatures. People said they didn't want the club torn down, and we presented that to the city, and well, we didn't get too far with it, because they did decide to, at a vote right after that was submitted, to tear the building down. Along came Jim and Mary Nowkowski, who had some expertise in developing historic buildings, and they cobbled together a program, bought the building, and begun renovation. So kudos to them.
Okay, so it's about halftime, and we were told there isn't a real intermission anymore. So Beta's going to do her own intermission.
If you know Coke and Jeff is in on this and myself and all, you know we don't sit still very well. After walking how many miles a day in that grocery store, Jeff would go play basketball during the Wednesday night open gym between the years, help me, 1981 to approximately
1999.
1999. That's a lot of running back and forth on that court.
Only 4 sprained ankles.
Coke is our classmate and community athlete from the 1984 Olympics? And me? We're going to have a little exercise. I have a few questions to ask, and I would like you to stand if you are a part of the answer. Reach for the sky, get some exercise in while you're doing that. The first question, I'd like you to stand and stay standing. Were you ever a manager of the club?
One person stands.
Did you ever work at the club?
You mean Pinset?
Not pin setting, we'll get to that one. What home in here, what are you doing? Were you a member of a class that graduated from the club? Did you ever iron bags to pack explosives?
There we go.
Please stand and stay standing. We're getting your exercise in here. Did you play high school basketball and or watch those games through the upstairs windows over the gym? Do you remember Santa coming down through the ceiling into the gymnasium at the Christmas parties? Did you ever go on a scavenger hunt from the club? Yeah, there were a lot of parties. I'm standing for that one. Did you ever go to a Halloween party at the club? Did you meet your current partner at the club? Yeah, we need you to stay standing. Did your mom ever tell you to get out of the house and this is where you went? Did you ever hang out on the deck of the club? Did you propose to your wife behind the club? I know of one proposal. Did you ever go bowling or set pins in the basement of the club? Come on, stand up, you guys. Did you ever drive by and want to see this building open for the community's enjoyment? Stand up. Get this building open again, guys. It's been way too long. All right, that's your exercise. Sit back down.
So, moving on, the next phase is it's really its own little chapter because of all the work that they did. And, they're supposed to, they called it the Nowkowski Days. So they bought, the way I understand it, and again, I might not get everything right, is they bought the building from the city for $1, and they were granted $200,000 in TIF money, and the work that was completed with the TIF money is there was a demolition of the 1941 addition in order to provide a handicap accessible entrance, and that foundation was in pretty bad shape. They removed the water-soaked and decayed bowling alleys, purchased the adjoining lot for off-street parking, installed new exterior siding and insulation, a new electrical service and boiler to heat the basement, and it looks like in about a year and a half they had completed all the TIF funded money. And in 2013 they started the Historic Civic Center Foundation, and in 2015 they gave the building debt-free to the Historic Civic Center Foundation. They completed the renovation of the office and the fireplace room, and they are absolutely beautiful. And in 2018, the Nowkowskis turned the foundation over to the Washburn Chamber. I asked Jeff Anderson if he would come up and just say a few words about the Nowkowskis and how happy we are for all that work they did. We would be in a lot of trouble if they hadn't completed all those structural repairs.
Yeah, Jim and Mary couldn't be here tonight. They're at a family reunion down in the Milwaukee area, but you got to give those two a lot of credit. They came into this town, they bought the Ross Marine building, they bought the little triangle building. It was a standard station when I was a kid, right in front of the Ross Marine building. They fixed the two buildings up, and then they took on this project of the club. And they have some support, but it just didn't go the way they wanted to. So what they did is they turned it over to us. Hopefully that we're going to have some better ideas and try to get this thing back up and running. But Jim and Mary deserve all the credit for this because they did it all, and they got it to the point where there's new siding, there's been work, the fireplace room has been remodeled. We're working on getting some monies together so we can get some handicap bathrooms going in there, possibly getting the gym floor back in shape, get the backboards back up so it can be reused for activities, not just for adult activities, but for kids. Just a lot of good things can happen with that building. I know it's old, the gym is small, but for old people it's great because you don't have to run very far. Look at Billy Bodine though, he's the youngest one in here, and he's just, yeah. No, Jim and Mary do deserve all the credit, and I wish they could have been here tonight. They really wanted to be. It's a great turnout. Thank you, and thank Jim and Mary. You know, back when I was a kid, I probably started playing basketball down at the club back in the mid-'60s when my parents would let me go downtown by ourselves. Back then you could. Things were safe enough where you could ride your bicycle down to the club and park it out front and go in, and the Civic Center was open for youth activities and senior citizens meals and card playing. It was just a great place. Nancy Garnish, when we were growing up, ran the youth program down there. And she did it for many, many years. I can't even imagine how many years she was there, but she always had a cigarette in her mouth. But she had it open and everybody enjoyed it. Either upstairs, there was games going on all the time for kids. There was TV up there. There was no video games at that time. The gymnasium was open for the public. We could go and play basketball, and most of us probably learned how to shoot a basketball down there. I could see Ronnie Johnson smiling over there, and Jeff Belisle smiling over there. Dick Olson, I don't know if he ever played basketball, but you might have played it on a donkey.
I was too fast.
But it's very important, and you know, Washburn really needs a place for kids, and that's what it comes down to. And it needs a place for the community to, you know, this is going to be an event center forever and ever and ever. But we need something for kids in this town. There's hardly anything left that we knew, and we got some people on the board, young people that have a lot of great ideas for youth activities and preschool events, and this is what we need. And I hope that it'll happen in the next couple of years. The fundraising is going to start hopefully in the next 6 months or so. Hopefully we can get some grants and get this thing rolling. Thank you.
He's going to tell his little romantic story too.
When I was a freshman in high school, I think it was 1971. It's a long time ago. They should have never invented these things. I was out in Colorado skiing with my parents. And my wife, Nancy, we were just starting to
Look at each other.
Back in 1971. And when I was out in Colorado, we were out in Aspen skiing, and I bought this little pin out there. And I think when I got back to town, she was in the hallway of the Civic Center. And I can't remember if I gave it to her in the hallway or if it was, where was it?
Going up the avenue.
No, I waited till we went up the avenue. I was probably hoping I'd get a kiss, but I don't think it happened. I got a few kisses after that. But anyway, that was my romantic story of the Civic Center.
And he told me Nancy still has the pin.
I'd like to pass on to you how the club was financed when I was there. We sold memberships, $3 for a year.
Wow.
And that membership was good for the entire family. Can you imagine that?
Nope.
$3 a year for the entire family. But that was one of the ways of financing the club while I was there. We sold those memberships.
My parents would have gotten a bargain. We're going to show the Nowkowski PowerPoint they did for last homecoming. It's really nice.
The historic Civic Center building has been the heart of Washburn since it was built. We're happy to share some of the past, present, and future history of the club with you today. The first club was located on this site, but burned to the ground in April of 1916. Dupont decided to erect a new building to be managed by the YMCA. Construction was started on this building immediately, and the new structure dedicated on January 14, 1919. The Washburn Times wrote, "Viewed as a whole, the Dupont Club is as nearly perfect a community center as the residents of any city could wish for. Figuratively speaking, it is the heart of the community and has become such an integral part of its life that the query is often heard, how would we ever get along without it? Numerous activities listed in 1919 programs include bowling, social functions, paid and educational movies, pool and billiards, gymnasium classes, general athletic programs, and baths. Christmas at the club was a special time of year. Washburn resident Isabel Moe, 96 years young, talks about her childhood memories.
Well, I've got a lot of memories about the club. We used to go as a child at Christmas time and go and wait for Santa Claus to come through that ceiling, you know. And it was only my brother and I and sister at the time. And my mother would take us down there. Everybody was there. Dupont put this on, you see. And there would be a program for the children. And then all of a sudden, Santa Claus would come through that hole on a rope and come down. And my heart used to just pound because I thought, oh my God, there's Santa Claus. And we were, the children, you know, in those days, we were so happy to see him. Then he'd go around, you know, and talk to all the children. And that, I remember that, I can almost feel it right now because it was so exciting to see him, you see.
Athletics was always an important part of the club. The Dupont Club basketball team, managed by Ernie Holman, arranged to have the Harlem Globetrotters brought to Washburn in 1932. The score between the two teams was 30-22. Two bowling alleys were originally constructed in the lower level in 1918, with two more lanes added in 1941. The first 300 bowling game was bowled in the late 1920s by basketball coach O.R. Hansen, affectionately known as Rough. Listen to local resident Jerry Doucette talk about setting pins at the club.
All manual set pins, you had to be careful you didn't get killed by one of the balls when the guys were throwing them down or get hit with the pins because they were hardwood pins, they weren't plastic pins, and I don't know how much they weighed, but for a 10-year-old kid to be setting pins, pick up 4 of them at one time with your small fingers was really, really hard to do. But and they were all yelling, hurry up, because you had to set the machine down on certain spots so the pins would hit them or they'd be off center. And it was quite an art that you learned early in life. But I think just about every boy in Washburn set pins there at some time.
Sandy Olson remembers spending time at the club as a toddler, playing on the gymnastic equipment.
My love affair with the Dupont Club started in the 50s when my grandpa Joe Cotty was the custodian of the club. And he would take me along, tag along with him when he went to clean, usually in the evenings. And so I had the run of the whole place. He had the keys, and I thought it was really something because I could go everywhere and into every part. And I especially would go downstairs when he was cleaning the downstairs. And there was the pommel horse down there, which I couldn't even get up on. But he and I became very good friends because I played with him all the time and thought that was just a great, great thing to do.
The Civic Center building took on new importance after Walker High School burned to the ground on February 6, 1947. Barb Jonas, who was a senior in high school at the time, talks about that fateful day.
So I sang at that funeral, and I was walking back up to the school, and after singing, and I was walking with a fellow by the name of Lloyd Swanson, big tall man. He said, "Oh, I suppose you hate to go back to school, eh, Barb?" "Yes, I do. I wish it would burn down." True story. Got there, it was burning down. Oh, sad. Everybody was crying, and Well, we lost all the books and everything in the school. Everything was lost, and so it was quite a sad day, of course. So then we had to go to the club to graduate.
Dupont donated the building to the city of Washburn in 1961, and it continued to serve as the recreational and social hub of the city. Many a romance bloomed at the Civic Center. Listen to Dick and Sandy Olson and Dick and Sandy Johnson talk about young love at the club.
Another one of my favorite DuPont Club stories is that's how Dick and I started dating. And we can tell the story now after 52 years. Do you want to say anything?
No, you go tell the facts, and then I'll add some.
It was a February Valentine's dance upstairs in the DuPont Club. And I was a freshman in high school, Dick was a sophomore in high school. And two boys decided to take me home. Neither one of them had driver's license. But Tim Smith and Dick Olson asked if I'd like to go home. And so we found John Bratley, who had a car, because he was a year older than even him.
He had one of the only cars in town.
That is right, that is
His
correct.
dad did.
So both boys took me home, and when they got to my house, they flipped a coin to see who was going to walk me to the door.
And I'm not sure if it was tails or heads, but I won. And as I said to Mary earlier in the day, even if I'd have lost, I would have won anyway, because anybody could beat Jimmy Smith.
Dick walked me to the door. I got a little peck on the cheek, and that's the end of the story, 52 years later.
And Jimmy's still trying to hit on her.
I don't know what we're going to say here.
First memory of meeting you was at the
Okay,
club.
okay.
Went down there as usual at that night, which almost lived there all the time. And I got a peek of you. You were coming down the steps from you guys. Girls had a meeting or something. And I thought I got to get a closer look at this. So they went outside. I guess they were leaving, and I thought, watch them walk away. So I went, opened the door, and she was standing right there. And I don't remember thinking. I just reached around, grabbed her, picked her up, and I remember she just looked back at me. I don't remember putting her back down. I don't remember saying anything.
I don't think he ever put me back down.
That was 7th grade.
That was 7th grade.
Love at first sight.
Years of deferred maintenance started to take a toll on the building. The brownstone front porch was removed in 1979. Water damage underneath the bowling alleys became severe. A leaky roof damaged interior plaster, and the exterior siding deteriorated. Facing mounting costs to maintain the building, the city voted to demolish the building in 2009. Saving the building became the focus of many local citizens, and 800 signatures were gathered on a petition to save the building. In the fall of 2010, Mary and Jim Nowkowski purchased the building from the city to prevent the loss of this historic building that anchors the downtown business district. The city provided $200,000 in tax incremental financing to make much-needed interior and exterior repairs. The bowling alleys and the water-soaked wood in the basement were removed. Portions of the 1941 addition were demolished to make way for a new handicap-accessible west entrance. New exterior insulation, siding, and painting completed this portion of the renovation in 2011. In the meantime, the couple established the historic Civic Center Foundation so that the building could be returned to community use. They donated the building to the foundation, mortgage-free, for the purpose of supporting community involvement, business, and tourism that benefits Washburn. The Board of Directors worked to raise enough donations to fund interior renovations and electrical upgrades to the fireplace room, front office and hallway, exterior concrete work and railings, so that the building could be open to the public once again at homecoming. Future renovations will include exposing the timber frame beams in the former gym, the addition of elevators, building system upgrades, and additional interior remodeling on all floors of the building. We must emphasize that the purpose of the Historic Civic Center Foundation is not the renovation of a building. The building will serve as a revenue source for the foundation so that it can be self-sustaining. The renovation of the Civic Center building, projected leases and rentals, salaries and taxes paid will inject over $2 million into the Washburn economy during the next 50 years. The community gathering spaces, tourist visibility that supports the local economy, and ongoing support for community-wide programs provide additional economic and social benefits to the city. Washburn will be happy to have this substantial economic boost. When this building was dedicated in 1919, it played a powerful role in the community for 85 years. Today we celebrate the first of many celebrations that will be held here in the 21st century. Our vision is that it will again serve as a powerful influence that will bind the community in the 21st century. This building's future, and that of Washburn's, will be a testament to the vision that is set in motion today.
So, as of January 2019, there's a new board and a new vision. Our mission to enhance life in Washburn, the Washburn community by offering and supporting programs and community projects that serve area youth, seniors, and the public at large. Our vision: the Historic Civic Center Foundation has been charged with the restoration of the old Dupont Club as a hub for recreation and community building in the city of Washburn. No simple deed. So, the new board of directors: myself, president; Mary Motive, vice president; Beta Bodine as secretary treasurer because Jeff said he didn't want to be treasurer. He's too busy visiting his grandchildren after working at the IGA since he was 10 years old, so more power to him. Kelsey Lindsay, Ariana Austin, Felix Kalinowski, Barrett Casey, and Scott Griffith. We feel we really, they shouldn't be at the bottom, they should be at the top, are advisors that make sure we're doing things right. Ken and Jane Weiler, Peter and Carla Bremner.
Wise advisors.
Wise advisors. I really think we have a strong board. We have a mix of talents and a mix of ages. This is something Joe Mawson wrote. Now in 2019, community-minded Washburn citizens have accepted the challenge of continuing the historic civic center tradition Dupont began in 1915. That is, to reinforce the sense of pride the community has for this local landmark. The vision, no matter how long it takes, is for the Dupont Club to live on and be available to Washburn as a multifunctional civic center. So these are some, we're still finding our own way. We have some paths forwards, and one of the things we, I would say, our 30-something people that have small children are coming up with a big list of some programs we want to do. But the one I want to talk about right now is this Little Explorers Club. The Kelsey, Ariana, and Nori Schwenschmeier all wrote, I don't know who did most of the work, but I'm giving all three of them credit. They wrote a Washburn Education Foundation grant to start this little Explorers Club, and they got the grant. And one of our wise advisors matched their grant. So another round of applause. Are you talking, Kelsey?
Sure.
Or Ariana? I didn't see you back there. Okay. And I have two pictures. There's two. This is two of their first albums. Whoops, I can't go backwards. Oh, good. We can go back to the one of the.
So I'm Ariana, and this is Kelsey. We wanted to start something right away without really being able to utilize the building in the current condition. So we worked with Nori to develop the Little Explorers Club, which is not our original idea. A couple in Colorado started it, and they have a model that we're mirroring. Basically, it's to get kids outdoors and exploring nature in a child-led environment. And so we've had 3 get-togethers so far. The first one, we had 15 families attend, so we were really excited about the turnout. We have several more in the coming weeks. It'll just run during the summer. But it's to start to gain awareness that the club is hopefully back up and running, and that we want to expand youth programming for young families in the area.
So we were graciously granted funds to support our exploration. And by the Washburn Education, Washburn Community Education Foundation, and the Weilers. And we, with that, were able to pay for entrance into state parks, in Berry Fair, to go over to the beaches. We can buy adventure supplies like magnifying glasses and nets and water bottles, fishing poles, things to get the kids really engaged and have them learning in their environment. All these things will then be kept at the club and for future adventures. So this has been a really awesome opportunity for us to get the club open and running.
In the first 2 days of developing a Facebook page for this group, we had 130 members join us. So the interest is definitely there, and we're hoping to expand upon that as well.
Speaking of Facebook page, anybody on Facebook?
Yes.
Awesome. If you would please go and follow our Facebook group. We had a Facebook page. They're very different, and I'm not going to go into explaining them. But if you could please go to Facebook and follow us, follow the group. It is the page, not the group. Follow the page, not the group. Follow the one with the picture of the club that has the white siding. It's called Washburn Club, the Old Dupont Club. So if you could go follow us, you can follow some of the progress that we're making. We are having a community cleanup day coming up on Saturday on the 20th, where we're going to try and clean out the club. Am I on here?
Yeah. Okay. Okay, keep going.
We're going to try and wash windows, sweep stuff, clean floors, put a little paint on the walls, pull weeds, spruce it up a bit for Brownstone Days, when we will be hosting a giant community garage sale fundraiser. Ta-da! That will be on the Saturday of Brownstone Days, the 27th, from 8 a.m. to 2 p.m. There is a flyer as you walk out the door. You can check that out, and there will also be some around the community. But all the proceeds will go to helping us open the doors again for your community center.
Yeah, I don't know how that one got there, but that was supposed to be later on, got out of order. This is, we just finished resubmitting our state plans. The ones from the Nowkowskis expired because the codes change. So we had to resubmit the plans to make sure we're doing all the ADA stuff and all the handrails and everything we need to do. And these are pretty much, you know, budget prices. Felix Kalinowski worked with me on this. We're both retired engineers, so hopefully we aren't too far off. But that totals about $100,000. And that way we can open the whole first floor. And I think it's a very doable number, a very manageable number. And then from there, our plan is to see what is the next section of the building that we want to open next. And again, then we have to do the state plans and they have to approve it. So it's going to be kind of an ongoing process. But we want to do it as we either write grants or collect the money and try to do it without ever taking out any loans or debt. We want to keep ourselves financially solvent. The Nowkowskis left us with about $50,000. Our plan is to keep that, to do our ongoing expenses and not use it for capital work. So we figure we have about 10 years of safe money to keep the building open and heated. So we're kind of on a 5-year track, sort of. And then I just put some, you know, numbers together. This, I guess that other page was 107. We think a new roof is going to be about 70, and we're going to try to get a grant for that. I've been trying to get someone to come up here to see if the floor's salvageable, or do we need a whole new floor? I don't know what that's going to be. Second floor, the second floor is actually in very good shape. There's some flooring damage, and there's quite a bit of water damage on the ceiling. But we all know the expert plaster guy will come through for us. And he happens to be married to the vice president of the board. So then, you know, I have a question mark, develop plans for the basement spaces. That is such a huge space. We've had people come and look at it, one for a bouldering wall, another to, you know, to put like a gymnastics center. You could do indoor archery league, the full length of those bowling alleys. You could do a lot of things down there. And then I just added on the elevator, if we want to make the whole building accessible. This is what Kelsey was talking about. It's going to be our first volunteer day, July 20th. Meet at 9 o'clock. We're going to clean, wash windows, walls, weed whip, and if you can, bring your own supplies. We have some. And then as future work days, one of the things all those numbers you saw, that would be if we hired contractors at, you know, the professional rates. If we have people with some skills that could maybe, you know, replace a door or something, we want to try to make it a true community event and get as many people as we can, and possibly those of us that are retired will have time to maybe repair a couple windows or replace a door. It's kind of light carpentry skills or light plumbing skills. More to come on that. This is our contact info, washburnclub@gmail.com. And our Facebook page is the Washburn Club - the Old Dupont Club. We felt we needed to use both names. Most of the older generation always calls it the Dupont Club. The younger people call it the Washburn Club, so we don't want to miss anybody when they're searching for information. And we have the domains purchased, but we don't have our web pages developed yet, but they'll be coming soon. Okay, this is supposed to be funny. Hopefully Jeff thinks this is funny. So when I was up there with Felix looking at the trusses, this old winch is still there that I think they lowered Santa with. Rope, we might need a new rope. But who will be the next Santa to drop from the ceiling? Jeff Anderson.